Alright, welcome back. This is Kevin McCain with Idaho Art Classes and Kevin McCain Studios. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Loomis method for drawing heads. The Loomis method, you'll see there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube. It's really a great method to work with in terms of dealing with the portrait. I like the Loomis method especially for the 3/4 view. We're going to go over it. We're going to use it I'm going to show you how to use it for the front view, the 3/4 view, and the profile, but I mostly use it for the 3/4 as far as that goes. I usually use an egg shape for the front and 3/4 Loomis, and then a lot of times I'll use a modified Loomis and a couple of other methods for the profile. But the way this works is that with Loomis, you're always using a circle. And the cool thing about if you have a circle is that the circle is always the same no matter where it's viewed from. So no matter where I have, if you have a sphere, now a sphere of course is three-dimensional, but it's the same thing. We could show a sphere three-dimensionally like so, two intersecting ellipses to show that it has volume. But no matter how you turn something that's a sphere, it's always the same. And that's the idea that obviously I said a circle, but obviously the head is a volume, so what we're really talking about is then a sphere. And again, no matter how you turn that sphere, you're always left with the silhouette, and we could turn it into a two-dimensional shape, which would then be the circle. So you have two parts with Loomis. You have the cranial shape, that holds the brain mass. They simplify that into the sphere. And then you have what some people will call the shield, which is where you come down off of there, off the circle. And it isn't very symmetrical, but we'll just use our imagination, shall we? But that if we've got this, looks very much, sort of like a shield, coat of arms almost. And this is the jaw coming down here to the chin. Very squared off, obviously. This is coming down from the cheek, So again, you have this shape, which try to make this splayed out little trapezoid shape here. But you have this shape married with the sphere is basically the idea of the Loomis method. And again, it's a really great method because you can use it for all kinds of extreme angles. Well, so what is it? Well, again, with Loomis, we always start with, a full circle. Would have been great if I'd warmed up first before I did this, but again, we're going to start off with that circle. There's enough of a circle here we can get the circle out here. Usually I'll warm up doing a few dozen circles before and egg shapes and other things and lines before I jump into something more formal like this, but you get the idea. And then if we take this, the top and the bottom, now if you're going to really start to draw heads, especially if you've never drawn them before, but even if you have drawn them and want to get better, you're going to practice just the basic head shapes a lot. So if you're doing egg shapes and dividing them by using the half, half, and a half method, well, then you're going to try to draw about 100 of them, just breaking them down, not in one sitting. Do about 5 in a sitting or 10 in a sitting, and then just keep doing it till you've done 100 of them. By the time you've done that, it'll really get into the gray matter, as we say. In other words, you'll be able to do it instinctively, and then you'll have a lot easier time. Just dividing this in half, you have a much easier time when you're drawing, when you're using something that you've basically memorized, and then it comes together much more quickly. So with whenever we're dealing with and you might be saying, what is it? What are you doing? I'm dividing this circle in half, vertically and horizontally. So this is horizontal half, pardon me, no, it's not the horizontal half, that's the vertical half. This is the horizontal half. Let's at least use the right nomenclature. But the first thing you do for the Loomis method is you need to divide this circle. We're going to divide this into sixths. Sixths, I should really pronounce that. So we're going to divide this into 3 and this into 3 for 6 pieces in all. So again, now I could go ahead and guesstimate this. If I was really worried about that's a little low. If I was really worried about it, I could use armature of a rectangle. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, you can go onto the YouTube channel, watch how to divide things using the diagonals of a rectangle, and we could use that to divide this. I think we're just going to go now. This is just where you're struggling. We're like, oh, okay, this is that's kind of there, and that's kind of there, and that's okay. That's not bad. So there's my thirds. Okay, so divide it from the halfway point from here to here, divide that into 3. And then you take this from the halfway point to there and divide that into 3. Or, since I've already done this once, I could take this right here, and all we need is the same distance from the top. Oh, just a little bit off. There we go. That should be pretty close. Let's go ahead and double check that. I'm just using my thumb and the pencil as a measuring tool. So I can measure that here. I can come over here and measure it up there. So this right here, and again, because we're dividing the half, 3, half up here, we divide that into 3. We're dividing them into 6, but what we really need them for, I didn't do this one obviously, whatever, we could just whatever. So you could divide this into 6, but the reason we're doing this is we need this right here. And the reason why is that we need, of this circle, we need an area that is a 2/3, 1/3. Well, instead of dividing this whole thing into thirds, instead we divide it into sixths. This right here is 2/6. That right there is 2/6. This is 1/6. This is 1/6. And so I get 2/6 and 4/6. Boy, that really sounds like a snake, doesn't it? And if we went ahead and took that fraction and simplified it, we would get that this right here is 2/3, right? And then if we added these two together, this 1/6 and that 1/6, that's going to equal 1/3. So we're going to get a 2/3, and we take this piece and that section, and that's 1/3. That's very important. I need to kind of step back a little bit because the first thing we didn't do on this is the way that Loomis works is it's taking if you take the cranium has a flatter side and then a rounder side. So the top and bottom are the round sides, and then it's a little bit flatter on the sides. And so what they do is it's like you're cutting off a section. So if we slice this off with a knife or something, and this piece fell off, we would then have a piece that we've cut off here of the side. This is supposed to be the top, and then we'd cut this one again, and so we end up with again a piece over here on the side. So you're trying to end up with something that's a little flatter. There's still a roundness to it, but it's much flatter because we've sliced off that section and we sliced off this section. And so this section that we're slicing is the 2/3 piece. Okay, so we need that. We have the 2/3 right there. And so now if this was facing towards me and I was slicing this, and we could get into this, if my center if I was centered, my center of vision, if you want to get into perspective, that just means that your eye is kind of right in the middle. If we sliced this and we sliced this, it would remain straight because we couldn't see the volume because of where our eyeballs are. If you started to move your eyeball and it's no longer here, and now you move a little to your right, not getting any closer, but you move to the right, well then again you'd start to see a little bit of this side. You'd see that ellipse, because now you've moved a little to the side, so you can now see again the ellipse on this side. So that would be my ellipse here. But I still wouldn't see an ellipse over here. It would be around the corner. But I would start to see a little bit of the curvature. This is the front part of the ellipse. We can't see the back of the ellipse. The ellipse would be around the corner, invisible. Like, that's what that checkered line means. But the idea is that if I'm looking straight on, it would be a straight line. And that's kind of the same way that if we have perspective and I have ellipse above me, I can see the ellipse. If it's below my eye, I can see the ellipse. If this ellipse comes down and lines up exactly with my eye, it becomes a straight line. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, it's a perspective thing, and it's something you're going to want to learn, but we're not going to belabor it right now. We're not going to go too much into it, but the idea is that anything that touches that eye line, where it lines up exactly with my eyes, I can't see the top or bottom of the ellipse. It becomes a straight line. And so that's kind of what I was doing with that. If my eye was right here, I wouldn't be able to see this ellipse or this ellipse. It'd just be, straight lines. But for the most part. So we've got this part. We've got the 2/3, 1/3. And what we're going to do now, I'm going to do this for like this is just like the general. And again, we're going to act like this is a 3/4 view. So we're going to go ahead and put an ellipse in here. And this ellipse, again, this is the side of the head. And so that's where we've cut off this section here. And we've actually cut off both sides, but again, if this is 3/4 view, I'm seeing the head turned. I can see this side where they've cut off the slice, but where they cut the slice off over here is around the corner. I can't see. I'll only see the curvature because the flat side is around that sphere. So again, we're still talking about perspective. And the great thing about the Loomis method is it deals with perspective on the head. So everything's affected by perspective. Sometimes we only think of, because in perspective, a lot of times you'll start with boxes, and sometimes people start to think that it's only, a box, and it's like, no. A sphere can be put inside a box and touch every corner, and so spheres and cones and anything that's three-dimensional is affected by that perspective that sometimes we think of as just, sometimes just boxes, but it's not just boxes, it's anything. Anything that's three-dimensional is being affected by perspective. That's an important concept. And when we're dealing with 3/4 views, and you could even say, well, it depends on, you could deal with perspective in a front view. Yes, you can. I just did a front view the other day where the eye was not looking straight eye to eye. It was actually the eye of the camera, in other words, was down, and so we had a perspective thing going on that was happening in the face because of where the perspective of the person viewing the person that we were drawing. Again, if that's something you're not having a very big issue here trying to get these pencils. If that's something you're not used to thinking about, or you don't know perspective, I've got videos on 1 and 2 point perspective, a little bit about volumes. Go and watch them. It's really great to help get your eye, or it's part about training your eyes to see perspective. It's always there whether we see it or not, whether we perceive it or not. And the more that you draw, the more that you perceive, the more you understand, the more you see what's actually happening instead of making visual assumptions, which always helps the drawing. So with a 3/4 view, and we're just going to start with a 3/4 view with the Loomis, you have, this is the first thing we want, is the 6 1/3, because this right here is supposed to be 2/3, the height of this. No matter how big it gets, like I could have a bigger and bigger and bigger ellipse, but that ellipse is always, could even become a circle, but again, it's always supposed to stay within inside that 2/3 area. Okay, so that's an important part. Now maybe I need to come back in here because I don't need all that to muddy up. But what this is, right? This is the corner of the face. So we usually have a front side of the face versus the side. And with Bridgman, he would actually put the head in the box. If this is where your eyes are and the cheekbone, this would be the side where your ear was, because the face again has a front side, it has a left side, it has a right side, it has a top side, it has a bottom side, it has all that. So we're actually going to go ahead and minimize some of this stuff. We're going to keep these lines because they're important, and we'll talk about why. So yeah, let's get rid of all this fraction stuff so that our brain doesn't start to get too overloaded with information. So again, we've got, this is our halfway line. This is our, this is 1/3 here, this is 1/3 there. Together we have 2/3. We're going to take this guy over here, and we're going to go ahead and cut him in half. So this is the next thing we're going to do. We're going to cut this ellipse in half. Okay. Now, the Loomis helps us for a couple things. It helps us with rotation of the head side to side. It helps us with the rotation of the head, leaning forward or backward. And then it also helps us with the head leaning side to side, or what people will talk about with the X, Y, and Z axis. Okay, and all that means, these are coordinates, and anyone who's had trigonometry will, we'll talk a lot about this, but it's really just, the easy way, the layman's terms, is one represents side to side, the other one represents leaning back and forth this way, and the other one is leaning back and forth this way. So so that's what we're going to be dealing with on this with this Loomis. So I'm going to grab the skull here real quick, a skull that I've got, and we can, it's easier to visualize. I'll be right back. All right, so again with Bridgman, this, he used the box, and the box that way, because with the box we can start, you can start to tilt things backward and forward and right to left, and things like that. Well, the head does the same thing. The head can either tilt forward and see more of the head. It can tilt up so that we see more underneath the jaw. It can rotate right to left, and it can rotate this way and that way. And so again, that's what the X, Y, and Z axis is about. And that's what you can do with Loomis. And that's the power of this thing. It's basically taking, instead of starting with a box like you did with Bridgman, it's basically taking the box, and it's how do we apply perspective onto the sphere, and then that next part, which we call the shield, which we're going to get to in a minute. Now, across here, and again, this is the front of the face here, and this is the side of the face. So if we have a 3/4 view, like so, this right here is the box. This is the corner of one side going this way and another side going that way. Two different planes, okay? And so what this little ellipse is, what this indicates is that plane change from right to left. That's what this is. So this right here is the side of the head, the flatter side, and this right here is the front. And so whenever you're drawing someone, you're going to look, and a lot of people will use the ear, but the thing is, sometimes people's ears are a little bit lower, so, you know, you're going to, you want to be a little aware of what's going on in case there's something unusual. But because, you know, usually the angles are not a straight line across there because that would flatten it out. They're going to be slightly different. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for the angle change. And so this side, for instance, let's say usually we're a little bit above or below. If our eye was above it, we'd see the top corner of the box. If our eye was below the person, we would see, you know, the corner of the box going this way. So what we're going to do is we're going to see, and this point right here is the point where we're going to bring those through for the side. So, you know, when the side is changed, if it's up a little bit, it's going to go through that point. If it's down a little bit, it's going to go through that point. This is where it's going to pivot. And so a lot of times, you know, now it's not, usually if you're looking right into somebody's eyes, it'll be there, but it's going to be pretty open, pretty splayed out. Again, we're talking about perspective, we're talking about angles, but we might have just a very slight angle going from this side to that side if we're looking someone straight in the eye. But the reason this becomes important is because this right here, for those that have done the skull, that's our brow line. Let's actually try to make this legible, shall we? So this is the brow line. Quite a squeak on there, sorry. It sounds a little bit like nails on a chalkboard. But this is our brow line, not the eye line. The eye line would be down here. This uses the brow. This coming from here over, and we're going to make sure that it's parallel to this. So this, remember, this is coming up just a little bit. And we're going to bring it over till it hits, you know, before these guys change the angles, they change, that's our edge, that's the edge of the box. So this over here, we're going to come up a little bit, like so, and then we're going to come down a little bit, just like this guy. Now, this might be a little extreme, might be a little softer, like right through there, and then this is coming down. Okay. Now this line right here, that's dropping a little bit too much, but this right here is the hairline. Remember, the hairline is the top of the forehead. That's supposed to be an R. Okay, so this is the top of the forehead. Remember, the top of the head's further back. So the forehead is not the top of the head. So it's, again, a little further back. Again, this is going to be the bottom of the nose. And again, we're going to make sure that this is parallel. All three of these lines should be parallel. So I'm trying my very best to parallel to that original. So remember, this is up just a tiny bit. So this is leaning up a little bit, and then this breaks and comes down. Again, it's the edge of the box. Okay. This is the nose. And again, this is why we have to get used to doing this. The first time you might do Loomis, you might be like, wait, what? How was that again? Because it seems to be all these strange steps. But once you've done 20 to 40 to 60 of these, I mean little tiny circles where you're breaking it down using the idea of Loomis, it's not that big a deal. You can do this in your sleep. After you've done 100, again, you can pretty much do it in your sleep. That's a really great method once you get your brain wrapped around it. But so this is the nose. Where's the chin? Well, we don't have the chin on here because this is the top part of the head. And this here's the bottom with the chin. Okay. And so what we're going to put this on here. And what we do is we're using this, we break it up into thirds. So this should be a third. That should be 1/3. This got a little bit high. So that's my 1/3 right there. And we're going to take this distance again. This is the brow line. This is the hairline. And we're going to bring that same distance down for the chin. Okay? That's a little longer. Now, sometimes the chin is just a little bit, just a scotch longer. So I'm going to leave it right there. Okay, so we have this right here is the chin. Now, before we go any further, we're going to go ahead and give ourselves a center line. Okay. All right. And this will be our center line. Now, this is, center line should be in perspective middle because this is in perspective. Meaning that if I've got this head turned in 3/4, I can see more, this is the center, I can see more distance from here than I can to there because of because of perspective. So that means even though this is in the middle, this is perspective middle, which means there's more of this side and less of this because it's foreshortening because of perspective. So again, remember that what happens when we first start drawing portraits, if we're not doing a front view, with a front view it flattens, but once we turn from a front view, we've got perspective until you go all the way into a profile and then it flattens again. So you have to be aware of perspective whenever you're drawing somebody. This is our center line, but it's in perspective middle because we're dealing with perspective. If I took this and I found the middle, this isn't quite a cube, this is just a box. But if I found the middle of that box by going corner to corner, corner to corner, and I drew a line, I don't know why this is so out of whack. These lines are not quite straight. So if you saw that, you're like, wow, this guy, what's going on there? But that's a little better. So if we measure here, there it is. It's more distance from there to the middle than from the middle to the back because of foreshortening. And I missed the middle a little bit. The middle's actually right here. But so it's off by, a 32nd of an inch, but still, hopefully you understand that. You understand what I'm saying. That's perspective middle. It's not measured middle. If I measured the measured middle would be somewhere, maybe right about through here. But if that's measured middle and perspective, that's not the middle. That's wrong, because the middle moves when we're in perspective because of foreshortening. So this to here is the middle, and then it foreshortens as it goes back to the back corner. It's actually foreshortening to get to the middle too, but because of this you get more from the front edge to the middle than from the middle to the back edge. Front edge, middle, back edge. Okay, so for this now, the reason we divide this in half is this is where the jaw, again this is where I divide it in half, is this ellipse. And we put this in there for the ellipse. And from here, that midpoint, this is where we're going to start the jaw. And the jaw has two angles. It comes down, and then the jaw comes over. Okay, and then the jaw is going to we're going to come into the chin. Okay, this is part of that shield. And then we're going to come off of this side, and and we're going to have a little bit of an angle because there's a sort of an angle to the face. And then if we bring this, again, we're going to mimic this angle because it's going to be in line. These are all in line and parallel, so this would follow the same angle as these. So this would have to be there. Once it hits there, that's the bottom of the jaw, right? The jaw is here, the jaw is there. It has to be, these should be parallel to these, and this is off just a little bit, but not so much that I'm going to lose sleep over it. That's better. So there's what the jaw should be. So this would come down. Okay, and then this is the left side of the jaw. Looks like this should have a little bit more volume here. And this goes over here to the right side of the jaw. Right side of the jaw, left side of the jaw. And if we wanted to, we could bring this down. Now, this I just squared off, but actually the planes of the face, if you bring an arc down from this midpoint down to the chin, this is actually all the side of the face. The face goes through part of the cheek and then comes down, and this right here becomes the side of the face, the whole right side. And then this is, if we came over here and brought this over and did the same thing here, yeah, that's where that would come over. Okay, so this right here would be the left side of the face. And again, because it's a 3/4, we're seeing more of the right side and less of the left side because someone's head is turned a little to the left. So the left is disappearing while the right is showing more of it. And so this right here is the basic Loomis head. We'll go ahead and minimize some of this. And you would use it, you can use this for the skull as well. So this is the basic idea of Loomis, and the reason Loomis works so well, and the same thing with Reilly. These were methods that have been used for a long time. You're seeing much more of it, thank goodness, because of the internet, and so there's a lot of people sharing things that you can come across it very easily. But here's the thing: for a long time, especially because of certain ideas that were circulating in the art world among certain movements, and that the only ones that were doing realistic art was less than true artists and all this nonsense, that a lot of this stuff got sidelined. There are only a few places you would be taught stuff like Reilly and Loomis, and they have a connection. I'm not sure where. I haven't done enough research to know, but they certainly have a connection. I would be shocked if they in the same country. The art community has always been very niche, very close knit. I can't imagine these two were, their lives overlapped a little bit, so I can't imagine, and certainly the students did. So I would find it hard to believe that Loomis didn't hear of Reilly's technique and then just simplify it for his own, to suit his own needs, for what he saw could be improved. But this is the basic Loomis head. Now we haven't put the features on it, but again, this would be the hairline up here. This is the side of the head. Again, this is the side of the face, and the way that you use this is going to be our brow line that you're going to come through here. Now, if you're doing a 3/4, you're going to see the brow come around and then the cheek come out, and you're going to get a little bit of that projection that's going to happen because it's a 3/4 view. But this is the brow, so the brow comes up, around, and then up and down like that, right? So we said this was the brow line. Now I wanted to show you that the brow, because we're not talking about the eyebrow. The eyebrow actually lays on top of here. This is actually where this comes up. That's the brow, and then we have, again, we get a little bit more arc through through where the eyebrows are going to be. But hopefully you can see this little M shape, and that's what I'm trying to do here. But what I'm trying to do is here, this is going to be the brow, and then it's going to come up for the eyebrows. And so people will refer to that as like the eyeglass, put on the sunglasses, shape. Don't forget those sunglasses. And so we went ahead and put that on there. And so that's what that's supposed to be. And this is the some people will call this the visor for the eyes. If you take the halfway point from here to the brow to the nose, this right here should be just about around there, is about where you have the bottom of the ocular cavity. But this right here is what we call again, that visor, where it's going in for the eyes. But so you can develop this into a head. You'd start with this is coming through for the brow. Again, it's 3/4. The brow will wrap around here, and then it's going to start to project for this. Actually, you're gonna have a cheek in there. And again, you're going to look at some people. It depends on what angle you're at. Normally, the cheek should be further out than the head, than the top of the brow. The cheek will project a little further. It's the widest part of the face, but mine looks like it's in a little bit, which is a little bizarre. But we're just going to leave that because this is just a generic head. So we're going to have the brow, and then this distance here. This is where you have the end of the ocular cavity. To position the eyes, well, a lot of times we'll just go ahead and go, look, where does the eye start? And the eye, if this is the end of that ocular cavity, well, then the eye is actually in a little bit. And so what a lot of people will do is they'll go ahead and put where the edge of the eye is, and then you have the three eyes. You just need to divide this into three. Now it is in perspective, so there is that whole thing, that there is this perspective going on. So this should be a little wider, this should be a little shorter, and this should be the shortest of all. You don't want to go nuts on that. I think mine's a little extreme right now, but this would be a third. Now, again, if we're doing heads, we're like, wait a minute, I thought they're supposed to be equal. Well, they are if they're not in perspective, but this is in perspective, so we got foreshortening. So again, this will be the longest, this will be just a little bit shorter, and this will be the shortest of all. But you have to make sure you don't go too nuts on that, otherwise it'll be like this right here. I still think it's just a little bit too much. So I'm going to make that a little thicker. This eye to that eye, it's still shorter. Which means this middle one needs to be a little bit, there needs to be a little bit more to it. I think that's a little bit better. It's still foreshortening, but it's not crazy out of control like it was before. It was just foreshortening way too much. And so this over here, we're not going to get into, we're just going to do a basic symbol for an eye. We're not going to sit here and go nuts on drawing some sort of, but we have, you know, again, this would be, our eye over here. This is nowhere near a halfway decent eye, but we'll just go ahead and say that's an eye here. It's a symbol that symbolizes an eye. As far as that goes, was a little bit too much of an arc up there, but okay, we'll just again pretend. We'll use our imagination. And then again, we're going to have an eye over here. A lot of times with this, you'll actually get the eye will turn back and in on itself as it's going around the corner of the eyeball, which is always kind of fun because again, now you're drawing eyes in perspective. Again, this is you'll get a little bit of a squeak to these sometimes. This is, you know, one of these Conte drawing pencils. Top of the eye coming here, coming around. This is then be the eyeball. This is the lid. I think the lid's too far open. And I don't know why, but this thing is not. That's just way too big of an iris. There we go. That's a little bit more naturalistic. We're not going to get into features today. These are just space holders for things that are supposed to represent stuff. In this case, it represents an eye. So this is just a holding. This is just a symbol. It's just to hold it's a placeholder, as you might say. From here, you're going to have, again, the nose come out. Now, interesting, this is just a generic head. But one thing about the nose is this is the bottom of the nasal cavity, but the nose actually, the septum goes below that a little bit. So, again, we're thinking of the skull as we draw this, but we do have to, again, be mindful, and it also projects. So, if this is far enough, this will actually come in front of this eye over here because this nose is projecting out. And so we'll start to cover more and more of that eye. And in fact, where this probably should project out a little bit more, but we're not going to, I think it'll be close enough for what we're doing. But we can go ahead and say, all right, well, this is the wing of the nose. This is then the underside of the nose. This is, we're going to have the bridge come down through here, like so. That's the bridge of the nose. So this is just very basic symbols. This is the far, just see a little bit of that opposite wing of the nose coming down. And again, now we also haven't changed the center line. Now the face projects. So with this would now come around the forehead. It would come down here, or it would come out, again, up as it projects on the nose. It would kick back, and then there's a projection to the mouth. So again, we're gonna actually start to get a contour that shows the fact that this has volume. We're going to start to see volume, just like if we see a circle with a longitude line right down the middle, and we're in the middle, we can't see the fact that it's round because of the way we're positioned to it. But as those longitude lines get further away to the right or left of us, we're going to start to see a bending curve. We're going to start to see the volume of that sphere. The same thing happens with the mouth. As it turns the face, we really start to see what's called the tooth cylinder, the fact that it is round through here, and then we pick up a little bit of the chin, round of the chin. The chin seems like we need a little more chin down here, but we would, you'd get a little bit of that projection. So you're going to have a mouth. Again, you're going to see a little bit of this projection too, and so we'd have, again, we're going to do just a very simple, again, a little symbol that symbolizes the mouth, but it's not really a mouth. It's just a symbol for a mouth. This would then be the bottom of this would come back, this would project out, this would then be the lip, the bottom lip. So, bottom lip. And remember, we did the skull, so we did the skull proportions. So we did, there's the brow, that's the nose, that's the chin. Well, the lips are somewhere in between there. Now, if you know with Loomis, and you cut this in half, and this should be halfway. Well, my mouth is actually a little too low because the halfway point should be the bottom of the lip, and that's not even if I lowered the chin to here, I don't think that's halfway. No, it's still a little low. But anyways, I'm not worried a ton about that because this is just a mannequin. I'm not worried about the fact that proportion just got way out of whack, and looks like I can't draw. But this, again, we've got, the lips are going to be between the chin and the nose, and then we'd have, of course, you're going to have we're going to have a neck that this head's going to sit on, as far as that goes. This back here, you're going to that middle line. Behind there's where the ear is. So again, you'd want to, sometimes depending on the perspective, the ear might be a little lower than the nose. Sometimes it's a little bit above the nose. It just depends on what's going on. And again, the ear is depending on the perspective, can be above but this is just going to be almost straight on. So we're not having a ton of perspective. But the ear is between the brow line and the nose line, is where you're going to have the ear on this person. And this is a little sharp. This would actually curve off here. Wouldn't be quite so sharp. This would curve off there. It's going to look a little less, like it's chiseled, out of stone or what have you. You'd then have you'd have your eyebrow coming along here, thereabouts. Along thereabouts. And when you see stuff like this really looks mannequin-like. I'm not trying to make it look less like a mannequin right now. I'm not really worried about that. But sometimes, and I'm certainly one of these people that would question a lot, what the heck? And so I'd see something like this that really does look stylized. I mean, this doesn't even look like a person. I'd be like, how are you going to get a person out of that? That just looks so clumsy. And yet, if you use it, and I've got, again, some videos where I show using it, where we use the concepts of this and then apply it to a real person, and all of a sudden, like, oh, that's where the power is getting these basic proportions happening on the face and so forth and so on. If this is the ear, well then, let's say this person has short hair, you're going to have a little bit of, depending on how much sideburn they've got there, but you're going to start to have, again, two little scoops here for the for the hairline. So again, the hair is going to grow out from the skull, so forth and so on. So whatever, maybe this person has whatever, maybe they have a slight buzz cut or something, crew cut or whatever they call it these days, but a very short haircut, so this would be in the hair standing up. but as it's cut shorn fairly close to the head. This is again the basic Reilly head. So again, this is the nose line, brow line, chin line, hairline, top of the head, and above the head grows out is where the hair grows from. And of course we have this coming down to the neck. Whoops. And then this would be just cylindrical, really, as far as this goes. And again, this looks very, very, very stylized. But we're going to actually do some drawings. But if you don't know how this Loomis method works, then it's going to seem kind of strange. So this is the very basic Loomis head.